Well, hello, welcome again to our reading of the Greek New Testament. We're reading St. Paul's epistle to the Galatians up to chapter 2, verse 11. Now again, you'll need to read the commentaries on the background to Galatians. Here, Paul is relating to the Galatians the events the events of the disagreement that occurred between himself and Peter. Obviously, some word of this had gotten to the Galatians, and Paul wants to make sure he puts his account of the story forward and the reasons why they had disagreement. Luke tends to smooth this over. You don't get any of this thing mentioned in Acts of the Apostles. There's a little bit there about disagreement, but it's very mild compared with the sort of language that Paul is using here. Anyway, we'll just read through it. Hoti de eilthen kephas es Antiochion, kata prosopon auto antestein, hoti kategnosmenosein. But when Kephas, interesting, he keeps using the Aramaic name for Peter, when Kephas came into Antioch. Now, Antioch was a very important early Christian centre. Came into Antioch. Antestein is from anti plus histemi. I stood up against, and it takes a dative. So I stood up against him, so I opposed him, kataprosopon, to his face. It's slightly idiomatic here, but to his face. Hoti kategnosmenos ein. This is it's really a sort of pluperfect passive here, where I've got the past tense of the verb to be with a perfect participle from kataginosko. Kataginosko is to condemn. Quite a standard word in classical Greek as well, where it's katagignosko, or in koine kataginosko, perfect passive participle. So because he had been condemned, literally. Pro to ga elthane tinas apo Jacobu metatone ethnon sun aesthien. Now normally ga comes second word in the sentence, but the pro goes so closely with the to here. This is pro plus the articular infinitive, the to with the elthane, and so the ga's been made third in the sentence. So before certain ones came from James, sun aesthien is the imperfect from sun esthio, to eat with, to dine with. Now it's imperfect, so it's he used to dine. You don't actually need the meta, it's there in the sun, but they've used both forms here. It's with the Gentiles he used to eat together with them. So it's a slight excess of language here. So we just say in English he used to eat with the ethnon, literally the races, but it's used of the Gentiles, generally translated. That is, those who were non-Jewish. Hoti de eilthon hubestelen kai abhorrisen hiauton phobuminos tus ek peritomes. But when they arrived, this refers to this tinas, this group who came from James, when they came, hubestelen, from hupastello, it's to withdraw, hupastello, to withdraw or drew back. Now it's imperfect, as is this next verb here. So he didn't necessarily do it instantly, but he began to withdraw, and he began to separate from aphorisdo. This again is the imperfect. He began to separate here out on himself, phobuminos, fearing those from the circumcision, that is, from the circumcision party. We had that word in the previous section, from peritemno. Kai sun hup ekrithes an auto kai hoiloipoi iudaioi hosti kai Barnabas sun ap ekthe auton te hypocrisei. Now this noun and this verb obviously connected. This is from sun plus hypocrinomai. Originally, hypocrinomai was to answer, and it came to, it was used then in, for example, in Greek tragedy, where one of the actors would answer back to the chorus, would speak or dialogue with the chorus. So a hypocrites originally was the word for an actor, someone who answered the chorus. And then in later Greek, of course, it comes to mean our modern sense of hypocrite, a hypocrites, one who says something but is not saying it truly. Now we get the sun is connected with this. So, and the other Jews, the other Judeans, the other Jews, joined in hypocrisy with him. And then there's a chi in brackets, so the other Jews also joined in hypocrisy with him, but we have a chi here anyway. Hosti plus the indicative, because it was something which happened, so that even Barnabas, sun ap eichthe, was led away by the hypocrisy of them. So perhaps led astray, we might say here, was led astray by their hypocrisy. This is sun apa, and the ache here, the eichthe is from ago. This is the aorist passive. So that even Barnabas was led astray by the hypocrisy of them, by their hypocrisy. This is dated from hypocrisis, third declension feminine noun. Al hoti aidon, hoti uk orthopodusin prostan aletheon to evangeliu. Apon to kepha and prosten panton. A su iudaios hupakon ethnikos kai uki iudaikos ses pos ta ethne anankes kasdes iudaisdain. So, but when, now the Adon here must be I, when I saw that, this is a very rare, in fact it only occurs here, I think in all of Greek, it's orthopodio. It's literally to walk with a straight foot. So it's extremely rare. It may be even a coinage here by Paul, but it simply may be a verb that was used but never written down elsewhere. The meaning, it was once thought to mean to walk uprightly, but some scholars think it means really to walk in, to go straight, to progress, to be on the right road. So, but when I saw that they were not, well, perhaps almost conducting themselves, not progressing, pros ten aletheon, to the truth of the gospel, so they were not going straight in regard to the truth of the gospel. Apon, I said to Cephas, again using his Aramaic name, empros then panton, in front of everybody. If you, hupako it's like, it means to exist. It's a little bit stronger than the verb to be in that sense, but often in English it's translated as the verb to be, but in Greek it's just got a little bit more stronger sense. So if you being, it's almost being by your existence, being by nature a Judean, a Jew, being ethnikos, being by race a Judean, and you do not live in a Jewish way. So if you being ethnically a Jew, you do not live in a Jewish way, another adverb, how are you compelling an ankasdo, the ta ethne, the Gentiles, to behave in a Jewish way. Hemes phusei iodaioi kai uk ek ethnon hamatoloi. But we are Jews by nature and not sinners from among the Gentiles. And this is a strange verse here. You'll need to look at the commentaries to expound it a bit further. But it's literally, we are Jews by our very nature, and we are not sinners from among the Gentiles. Eidotes de hoti u dikaiutai anthropos ex ergo nomu ean me diapistios Jesu Christu kai hemes es Christon Jesun epistiusamen hina dikai o thomen ek pistios Christu kai uk ex ergo nomu hoti ek ergo nomu u dikai o thesatai passasax. Long sentence here. Knowing, and here this is really one of the central tenets of Paul's understanding of Christianity, as we see in his letter to the Romans. So, but knowing that a man, dikai utai, the verb is dikai o, it's an omicron contract verb. This is just a passive here, it's o plus et becomes u. So knowing that a man is not made just, ex, by means of works of the law, except ean me, through faith. Now this genitive is probably an objective genitive, faith in Jesus the Messiah. And we believed in, so we also believed in the Messiah Jesus. Notice the reverse, we've got a chiasmus here of the names. In order that we might be made righteous, might be made dikaios, just, so it's the same verb, dikaio. This is the aorist passive subjunctive here. Again, ek pistios Christou, as a result of faith, it must be an objective genitive, in Christ, and not as a result of works of the law. Hoti, because as a result of works of the law. Now this is a Hebraic expression here. It's literally, not by works of the law will each flesh will not be justified. So by works of the law, each flesh will not be made just. So we would say in English, by works of the law, no person, they use the word flesh, so taking the u with pasa sax, that's a Hebraic expression for no one. So no one will be made just. 17. E de cetuntes dikaiothenae en Christo hurethemen kai autoi hamatoloi, our Christos hamatias diakones. But if seeking, now here we get an aorist passive infinitive, but if seeking to be made just, we are found, this is an aorist passive from heurisco with a little linking vowel here, we are found in Christ, and we ourselves are sinners. And we get this rhetorical question. The Ara introduces the question, is the Messiah a servant of sin? May genoito, may it not be. One of Paul's favourite expressions. Ega ha katelusa tauta palin oikodomo, parabatein emauton sonistano. But if, now Greek often, you will have seen it happen, often the relative pronoun comes physically before the antecedent. So in English we put the tauta first and then there's the relative pronoun. Greek does the reverse. So we have to read the sentence this way a bit. So for if, oikodomo from oikodomeo is the verb, I rebuild again these things which katelusa I have destroyed. Kataluo is it's to pull something down, to hence that luo of loosing. So hence to destroy. So for if I build again these things which I have destroyed, sun histano, well, it's just I make myself. Literally, I establish myself, emauton, as a parabatein, as a transgressor. This is from it's parabates, first declension masculine. The bar root here comes from bino. It's to step over the mark. It's the original sense of it, and hence putting it into Latin, to transgress. So I make myself, I count myself, I establish myself as a transgressor. Again, you need to look at the commentaries to expand on this. Ego gar dianomu nomo, apethenon hinatheotseso. For I, through the law, I died to the law in order that I might live. This is a subjunctive here from sao, to God. Now some interesting things here. We get an emphatic ego. We get nomu genitive and nomo dative next to each other. Now this is a literary trope called polyptoton. You can look up that one, polyptoton. It's a literary device in Greek where you put two nouns with the different cases next to each other. The Greeks liked the sound of it. They thought it was quite clever to do this. You'll see this in poetry, in earlier Greek poetry, and also in Greek prose, especially in oratory. It's meant to impress the hearers, this polyptoton technique. But here it's just, for I died, so through the law I died to the law in order that I might live to God. Christo sunestarumai. This is from sun plus stauro. It's just an imperfect. So it's a passive, of course. So I was crucified together with Christ. Tsode uketi ego tsede en emoi Christos. So no longer I live, and the ego is delayed and it's emphatic. So I live, no longer I. So I no longer live, and then it's balanced by Christos in the next sentence. But Christ lives in me. And the ego, the I, and the Christos here are juxtaposed. Classical Greek would have put a nice men in here rather than a de, but that doesn't always happen in biblical Greek. Hoden nun so en saki en pisto so te tu huiu tu theou tu agapesantos me kai paradontes hiaton ube emu. Now the hot here is slightly odd. It's a relative pronoun, and it's neuter. It's because it's referring to everything really that comes next, so it's very general. So you have to supply something like the life which, even though soa is feminine. So the life which now I live in the flesh, I live in faith. Others translate this in that I now live in the flesh, I live in faith. So, or you can extend it a bit. So the life which I now live, I live in faith. The te has to go, it's feminine, it's got to go with the piste. It's very awkward here. It's almost like a relative pronoun. It's the faith and they have to understand in, even though it's taking a genitive. So it's an objective genitive. The faith in, so I live in faith, the one which is in the Son of God, the one having loved me, aorist participle, kai paradontes, again another aorist participle from paradidomi, to give himself, huper emu, on my behalf. Uk atheto, from athetio is to, well, we get the word athetize. It's to remove something, but it can to mean to make invalid. So I do not invalidate the grace of God. Agar dianomu dikaiosune ara Christos dorion apethenon. For if righteousness, there's no verb in this bit part here, so if righteousness, understand, is through the law. Now the ara here, then, it means then, often translated then, it means it follows logically almost, the ara. Then Christ died, Dorian, in vain. Dorian has a range of meanings. It can mean as a free gift, but here it's in vain. So if righteousness comes by means of the law, then consequently Christ died in vain. And that is the end of chapter 2.